Hi there, Wes here again. Welcome to Highfalutin vlog number 2. This week I want to chat a little bit about a nasty subject of hidden carbs. I mentioned it in our last recipe review battle, if you remember from the hash brown showdown, that I had some hidden carbs that I wanted to talk to you about. So that's what we're going to do today. And I'm not going to take up much of your time, but I do enjoy these vlog style videos and as an ability to get to speak with you without tearing my kitchen apart for 3 days to put together those massive recipe battles. More of those are definitely coming, but in the meantime, let's chat for a minute. One source of hidden carbs is using raw carb counts for cooked product. And by that I mean, if you take and measure out, say 200 grams or a half a cup of raw cauliflower, right? And you cook that in the microwave and squeeze the water out of it so you can, or boil the water out of it so that you can either make cauliflower mash or hash browns or whatever you're doing with it. You have to remember that you are using 200 grams worth of raw cauliflower when you go to your macro counting apps or online or however you keep track. I see a lot of people that will measure out half a cup of cooked cauliflower, and then when they're entering that into their database for their daily counts, they select raw carb counts. But no. Cooking does not remove carbs. Cooking removes moisture, which lowers the volume of a product, of cauliflower, broccoli, whatever you're doing, radishes. But it doesn't remove the carbs. So you've really got to be careful there. Make sure when you're looking at your carb counts, if you're eating raw products and raw food, be sure you are selecting raw. But if you're eating cooked food, be sure you are selecting cooked, or that you pre-measured it and are allotting for those raw carb counts. Okay, so that was an easy one. We already talked about that one. The second one is these guys, spices. What is conspicuously absent from both of these and all spice bottles? Nutritional information. But boy, you better believe there are carbs in there. I'll tell you what, I try to get most of my carb count information from the USDA.gov website. They have one of the most extensive databases, not only of branded products, but just of natural products as well, like vegetables and meat products and animal products. Did you know that garlic powder has over 7 grams of carbs per tablespoon? Total carbs, not net carbs, but total carbs. 7 grams in a tablespoon. So yeah, you're going to use a tablespoon, maybe a teaspoon in a recipe, and that's going to be spread over 4, 5, 6 servings, who knows what you're making. But those carbs still count, and you better believe you're going to get 1 or 2 of them in your meal, in your serving. So onion powder has over 5 grams of total carbs per tablespoon. Chili powder has over 4 grams of carbs per tablespoon. Cinnamon has almost 5. So these are not labeled on the bottles that we buy, but you better believe that the carbs are there. So when you're building recipes in MyFitnessPal or Lose It, or just writing it out by hand and counting your ingredients, I myself even say, oh, it's just a teaspoon or a couple of teaspoons of garlic powder. That's nothing. Actually, that's probably 4, 5, 6, 7 grams of carbs that I'm adding to my recipe. And likely, many of us, myself included, do not count those, and they need to be counted. So spices, that's number 2. The third thing is labeling errors, and this is what I'm going to categorize as just generally innocuous, genuine mistakes in labeling products. I mean, just like the people who label food products are human just like us, and they can make mistakes, and they often do. And I've seen just yesterday, I'm going to hold this up, but I'll also put this on screen. Just yesterday, this is a Mrs. Stratton's, I think it was tuna salad. That I was sort of inspecting. And if you will see here, total carbs, 4 grams, 2 grams of dietary fiber, and 3 grams of sugars. Now, what doesn't add up there to you? Because I know what it doesn't add up to me. When you're looking at these, total carbs is the heading, right? That's the category heading. So everything underneath that it cannot be more than that. It can be less than that, than the total carbs, but it can't be more. So 2 grams of fiber and 3 grams of sugar is 5 carbs, but it's listed as total carbs is 4. Well, that is mathematically impossible. It has to at least be under the total carb total or match. It's often more because there are other carbohydrate types that they are not required by the FDA to list. And I'm going to mention this is USA labeling. Canada, Europe, Mexico, other countries will do it differently. So look to your labeling laws for your country. But if a product is labeled in the United States for sale in the United States, they have to list total carbs and sugar and fiber. And this one don't match, kids. So this is probably a sample, a situation where an example of just a genuine mistake. So yeah, there's some errors there. So that makes me suspect of the entire label. Because if there's an error there, are there other errors in labeling? Now, that's pretty benign. It's fairly innocuous. It's 1 carb per serving that's a difference here. And it may actually be that, you know, it has 4, and one of the other, maybe it only has 2 sugars. But who's to say? Who can know? So the best thing to do is contact the manufacturer and try to get clarification on that. Now, I've had a couple of situations in the last couple of months where I've actually reached out to companies and haven't heard back. One of them was a product I use, and I cannot find the picture I took of it at the time before I threw it out. It was a bottle of sherry vinegar. I like sherry vinegar for salad dressings. And it said 0 total carbs, sugars 1 gram. Well, that's mathematically impossible. If you have 1 gram of sugar, then you have to have at least 1 total carbohydrate, right? They can't be one or the other. It can't be 0 total carbs and 1 sugar. So probably just a genuine error in labeling, but it happens. Coincidentally, I bought another bottle to replace that bottle, and the label had been corrected. It showed 0, and if you want to know how they corrected it, they didn't say it had 1 gram of carbs. It said 0 carbs and 0 sugars. Was it a different batch? I don't know. Was it just a labeling error somebody caught and reported to them so they know to fix their label? Who's to say? But label errors happen. The same actually happened on a can of, do not judge me, a can of boiled peanuts. Okay, I'm in the South. I eat boiled peanuts. No, they are not keto. Yes, they are legumes. Yes, I eat them when they fit in my macros for the day. It's a Southern staple, one that I'm not going to give up. So I just account for it in my counting of the days. So the same happened. I forget the brand it was, Peanut Patch or something, and they had more fiber and sugars than were reported in the total carbs listed on the package. I again reached out to the company, never heard anything from them. I would be very interested to see the next time I go back and get a different lot or a different batch of this product if it's been changed or fixed. Number 4 is labeling laws. Labeling laws in the United States allow manufacturers to round down if 1 serving contains less than 1 carbohydrate. So if you have 0 to 0.49999 grams of carbs in your serving, you are legally allowed, the manufacturer, to list that as 0 carbs. But there actually may be up to a hairline amount, almost a half a gram of carbs per serving. Now, if it's over that, they can say, if it's over a half a gram, they are allowed to say less than 1 gram. One of the biggest offenders of this are eggs and heavy whipping cream. I see so many people asking on boards and on Facebook and in forums, showing, oh, look, I found a brand of heavy whipping cream that has 0 carbs. It says 0 carbs per tablespoon. Well, no, Shug. It's probably got 0.4 grams or maybe a little bit less in 1 tablespoon because the serving is that small. Well, guess what? When Wesley has 2 tablespoons of heavy whipping cream in his coffee in the morning, guess what? There's almost a carb in that. If there's slightly less than half in each serving. You see where I'm getting at? So multiply that across multiple products in the day. So this is everything, right? Whether it's your garlic powder we're talking about, or eggs are another example. Let me show you. Here's an example of the, that's my heavy whipping cream label right there. And it just says total carbs less than 1 gram. So that probably tells me that it is actually over a half a gram per this 1 tablespoon serving. Because you better know that if it was less than half a gram, this labeler would have put 0 grams, which they are legally allowed to do. So my point is multiply all these little rounding errors, as I like to call them, across your day and across all the products that you're eating. And guess what? You're eating much more than you think you are, probably. Here's eggs. Look at eggs. Let's do the math here on this, and I'm going to show you why. And I'm going to put this. Okay, this is an egg, serving size 1 egg, 50 grams, 1 large egg. It says it's got 70 calories, 0 carbs, 5 grams of fat, and 6 grams of protein. Well, guess what? That doesn't add up. Let's do the math. We know that we know that protein and carbohydrates have 4 calories for every gram. And we know that fat has 9 calories for every gram. This is written on every nutrition label at the bottom. You can see it there. So if we do the math here, you've got 5 grams of fat, okay? So that's 9 calories each. So that's 45 calories just in fat. Then you've got 6 grams of protein in one of those eggs, and that is 4 calories each. So 6 grams times 4, that's 24 calories. And so you've got 0 carbs as reported on the label, which would have been 4 calories per gram, but that's a 0. So when you add 45 and 24, you don't get 70 calories there in that egg. You get 69. Yes, it's only a calorie, but that's what rounding errors do. And you know why? Because every large egg does have some carbohydrates in it. It is less than half of a gram, so they are legally allowed to write 0. If you go to the USDA website for a large egg, it says it's about 0.38, I believe is what it says, grams. So you eat 2 or 3 or 4 eggs a day, guess what? There's a carb. There's 1 or slightly over 1 carb because an egg has no fiber. So it's total carbs. So eggs, heavy whipping cream, a lot of these standard staples that are in our diet that have small, it's generally small serving sizes of things because if it's less than 1 gram per serving, that's when they're allowed to do this rounding down situation. But you take all the products you eat in a day and round them all back up to where they need to be, and you're probably getting 2, 3, 4, 5 more carbs than you think you're getting, especially when you consider the spices. Okay, again, USDA website is where I like to go to get my carb information. I don't rely on apps any longer because I've seen too many discrepancies. And I don't know if I want to trust the government either, but I would trust food scientists more than I trust a manufacturer trying to sell me a product. That's my thoughts on it. All right, and the last one is what I call labeling lies. And I've got to be very careful here. I'm not going to mention any product names, but I want you to go type in low carb lawsuit into Google or your favorite search engine. Type in low carb bread lawsuit. Type in low carb pasta lawsuit. In 2014, 2 large companies were hit with FDA fines, and one of them had an almost $8 million class action lawsuit against it because they were selling low-carb pasta for 10 years labeled as something like protected carbs, right? So it was saying that it actually had like 46 grams of total carbs, like 5 was fiber, and then they were subtracting 31 or 32 protected carbs out of this product and putting that it had like 0 net carbs on it, which the class action lawsuit and the FDA said, no thanks. That's not how that works. And independent people started testing their blood sugar and finding this. Another one is a bakery company selling some paleo bread, hit with 4 violations. The FDA termed significant labeling violations for their bread products for claiming that they were low carb when in fact they were not. They even got hit for calling it high protein. And they were off by as much as 10 carbs per serving when it was actually sent to independent labs and tested. So our number 2 or number 3 was labeling errors. Sometimes it's just an error. But when you cover the front of your product with all these proclamations of being low carb and then you forcefully change the numbers on the back of the label to match the claims you've got on the front of the box, then those are labeling lies. And I'm not going to mention any of the names of the companies. I'm not claiming that this has happened. I'm just reporting the news that it has happened, that is already in the public domain. So if you're one of those companies, I'm not mentioning your names, so don't come after me. But you'll notice I mentioned this in the bread battle video as well. It was not the brand we tested, the Great Low Carb Bread Company. That was not it. I didn't care for their bread product. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but they were not the company that I'm speaking of. So that really does it. Those 5 things right there are nasty little sources of hidden carbs that you may not be used to thinking about. And so here's what I do, and this is just me. I try very hard every day to stay under 20 carbs. That's what my goal is every day. I don't always hit it, but I sure as hell try. So when my feet hit the floor in the morning, I go ahead and subtract 3 carbs out of my total 20 that are just gone in the air. Those are accounted for through rounding errors in my heavy whipping cream, rounding errors on the label for my eggs in the morning, mistakes in labeling of products, spices that I'm using in a recipe or that are in purchase products that I'm using. So that's my rule of 3. Start with 3 is what I say. When I hit the floor in the morning, I'm just picking a number out there. I think probably about 3 grams of carbs I'm not accounting for. So really, my goal is to try to stay under about 17 and know that I have really eaten about 20 or 21. So, all right, guys, thank you for joining me. I like spending this time with you too. I sure do enjoy being in the kitchen, testing our recipes, and we're going to be back there just in the next couple of days. So be on the lookout for that. If you've got some hidden carbs that you've heard about, seen about, things and products you've wondered about and found some little sneaky boogers, leave a comment below and let us know. Please like this video, tell your friends about it, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. This is my way to get for me to stay on a low-carb diet. You guys are keeping me accountable. Knowing that I have to stare in the end of this camera every week and report back to you helps keep me honest, because it is a struggle and we all know that it is. So together we can do a lot of things. Love you guys. I'll see you in a couple of days. Got another big battle video coming out shortly. Talk to you soon. Bye.